Trout strikes out swinging.
The 2023 World Baseball Classic is over, and wow, what an experience. The last month has consisted of some of the best and most electrifying baseball we've ever seen. Stars broke out, tears were shed, and voices were lost. The knockout stage specifically had some of the biggest and best baseball that has ever been played. No, that is not an exaggeration. Live broadcasts and highlights of these games broke viewing records everywhere. The tournament had some absolutely huge moments and amazing games. Fans everywhere will never forget the 2023 World Baseball Classic. In this video, we'll be going over the knockout portion of the 2023 World Baseball Classic. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. The quarterfinals. The quarterfinals of 2023 consisted of 4 great matchups, but 2 of them will go down in history. Funny enough, both of those games happened to be between Pool C and Pool D. The first of these matchups was Mexico versus Puerto Rico. In the top of the first inning, Mexico pitcher Julio Urias had already been struggling, giving up an early run while batters were easily getting on base. Then up came Javier Baez. With 2 outs, Baez had 2 strikes and a dream, sending a ball the other way to put Puerto Rico up 3-0 before Mexico even stepped to the plate. The next pitch, Eddie Rosario hits a ball to straightaway center field, giving Puerto Rico a huge 4-0 lead early on. Puerto Rico starter Marcus Stroman would go on to have a solid day on the mound. That is, until the 5th inning. Stroman had only given up 1 run until this point, an Isaac Paredes home run. But in this inning, Stroman would get himself into a jam. Mexico would load the bases with 1 out. Alex Verdugo would step up to the plate and hit an RBI single to put Mexico on the board. However, Stroman would pull through, getting a red-hot Joey Meneses to pop out, before getting Rowdy Tellez to ground out to end the inning. The game would stay 4-2 until the bottom of the 7th. Alexis Diaz, brother of Edwin, would be on the mound, and boy, his outing was not the best. Like Stroman, Diaz would load the bases, but this time there were 2 outs. However, the same guy that put them on the board would pull through and tie the game for Mexico, Isaac Paredes. He would hit a single that brought 2 home. The next batter would be Luis Urias, and he would also hit a single to give Mexico the lead late in the game. This would be the end of the scoring, as Mexico would advance, beating Puerto Rico 5-4 in an instant classic. Speaking of instant classics, the next game would be USA versus Venezuela. The USA were the favorite in this game, despite Venezuela entering undefeated. Team United States would show why they were the favorites early, scoring 3 in the top of the first inning on the back of singles from Mike Trout, Paul Goldschmidt, and Kyle Tucker. However, Venezuela would answer back in the bottom of the inning, with Luis Arias hitting a 2-run home run off of American starter Lance Lynn to bring the game within 1. Now, in the top of the 5th, the USA would be up 4-2 after a sacrifice fly from Mookie Betts early in the game, and we would see an interesting matchup, Astro versus Astro. We knew something was bound to happen here, and boy did it. Kyle Tucker would take Astros teammate Luis Garcia deep to right field to put America on top 5-2 in the top of the 5th inning. The bottom of the inning would end up being even crazier. Rockies closer Daniel Bard would enter the game in relief, and let's just say, he was not prepared for what was about to come next. Bard would end up loading the bases with no outs. And in the first at-bat with the bases loaded, Bard would throw a wild pitch, bringing a runner home for Venezuela and starting an inevitable run. The next thing you know, Luis Arias gets an RBI ground out. And with one out in the inning, Pool D MVP Salvador Perez would step up to the plate. Perez would rip a double down the left field line, tying the game at 5. Ronald Acuna Jr. would then get a sacrifice fly to put Venezuela up 6-5 before the 5th inning ended. In the bottom of the 7th, Luis Arias would continue to put on a show, hitting his 2nd home run of the game and his 4th RBI of the game to give Venezuela a 7-5 lead. That lead would only hold up half an inning. The USA would load the bases, and with no outs, Trey Turner would step up to the plate and would end up hitting a huge grand slam to left field to put the United States up 9-7 late in the game, with Trey rounding the bases and the crowd as loud as we've ever heard. Everyone knew they had just watched history. The USA would go on to win the game 9-7, and Trey Turner was recognized as an American hero. The semifinals. In the first semifinal matchup of the tournament, the USA would go on to face Cuba, the winner of their quarterfinal matchup versus Australia. The top of the first would be a scare for the United States, as Cuba would go up 1-0 early. However, that would change quickly as Paul Goldschmidt would hit a 2-run bomb to put Team USA up 2-1. The rest of the game would end up being pure dominance for the Americans, as they would easily dismantle Cuba 14-2, punching their ticket to the championship game on the back of 2 more home runs from a seemingly unstoppable Trey Turner. Next up on the schedule was Mexico versus Japan. Japan won their quarterfinal matchup versus Italy in convincing fashion. Japan entered the 2023 World Baseball Classic as the favorites, and up until this point, they had lived up to their hype and had been undefeated. The game early on was an absolute pitcher's duel, with Mexican starter Patrick Sandoval and Japanese starter Roki Sasaki both being borderline unhittable through 3. Sasaki especially looked like a force to be reckoned with, as he had thrown over 20 pitches over 100 miles per hour at this point. However, in the top of the 4th inning, Luis Urias would hit a huge 3-run homer to put Mexico up 3-0. Scoring would continue to be hard to come by as Patrick Sandoval continued his dominance, and Japan would bring in ace Yoshinobu Yamamoto to carve up Mexican hitters. In the bottom of the 7th inning, everything changed. With 2 on, Masataka Yoshida would step up to the plate and hit the biggest home run of his life, tying the game at 3 late in the game. The tie wouldn't hold on for long, however, as Alex Verdugo would get a big double to put Mexico up 4-3, followed by another RBI single from Isaac Paredes to increase their lead to 2. Things would get ultra dramatic in the bottom of the 8th, however, as Japan had already scored on a sacrifice fly to make it 5-4, and Mexico was in a jam. They would escape it, however, on the back of some super clutch pitching. Entering the 9th inning, the score was 5-4 in favor of Mexico, with Mexico due up first. They would go on to not score in the top of the inning. Due up in the bottom of the 9th was Shohei Ohtani, Masataka Yoshida, and Munetaka Murakami. A terrifying lineup. Ohtani led the inning off with a double, and Yoshida walked, putting Murakami in a big position. Munetaka Murakami would pull through, making himself a hero, hitting a walk-off double to send Japan to the championship game to face the United States. A legendary moment in a legendary tournament. USA versus Japan. In the championship game of the 2023 World Baseball Classic, Japan would match up with Team United States in arguably the most anticipated baseball game of our lifetimes. Scoring got started early as the United States went up 1-0 in the second inning after yet another Trey Turner home run. Remember when we said he's seemingly unstoppable? The lead didn't stay for long, however, as the first pitch in the bottom of the second was absolutely crushed by Japanese semifinal hero Munetaka Murakami. Japan would then bring another around after a bases-loaded RBI groundout by Lars Nootbaar to put Japan up 2-1 after 2. 2 innings later, it was Japan with yet another leadoff home run, as this time it was Japanese first baseman Kazuma Okamoto who went yard, giving Japan a 3-1 lead. Through 6, the story of the game had been Japanese pitching. Japan had just been throwing out of their entire bullpen, and they all happened to have beautiful splitters. Team USA hitters were struggling to hit them for a long time. However, they had been getting on base, but Japanese pitchers would seemingly strand them with ease. Japanese pitching isn't the only pitching staff that impressed this game. Through 6, outside of the 3 solo home runs, there was only 1 combined run, an RBI groundout. Japan loaded the bases in the 6th inning, but USA reliever Jason Adam escaped the jam, stranding runs that would surely put the game away. Team USA showed some real hope in the top of the 7th, as pitch hitter Jeff McNeil and Mookie Betts both got on with 0 outs. But Mike Trout would fly out and Paul Goldschmidt would hit into a double play, ending the inning faster than they would have liked. In the top of the 8th, Kyle Schwarber worked a very long at-bat versus Yu Darvish and ended up taking a Darvish splitter very, very deep to bring the USA within 1 late in the game. However, that would be the only run that inning. In the top of the 9th inning, something insane happened. After batting 3rd all game for Japan, Shohei Ohtani came into the game as the closer. After getting the first 2 batters in the inning out, Ohtani had 1 man left, his teammate Mike Trout. The battle of the century. For the tournament of the century. The stars aligned to have this happen, and it did not disappoint. Trout brought it to a 2-3 count, but Ohtani threw a filthy slider to strike Trout out swinging, earning bragging rights versus his teammate, and winning the 2023 World Baseball Classic for Japan. What a moment! What a tournament! What a player! To no one's surprise, Shohei Ohtani won 2023 World Baseball Classic MVP. That's it. We hope you enjoyed our 2023 World Baseball Classic recap and the tournament itself. Did we forget anything? Let us know in the comments. And be sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Be on the lookout for more content, as it's sure to come your way soon. See you guys in the next one.